Did you know that Godzilla was created by producer Tomoyuki Tanaka, where this monster is a personification of the fear of nuclear weapons? However, did you know that many characteristics of this monster, created as a mythological being, are found in the Bible? And the best part is, biblically speaking, I can prove it. Did you know that there are monstrous creatures described in the Bible that can remind you of Godzilla? It sounds crazy, but what if I told you I can prove it? In this video, we will explore together the most enigmatic and fascinating passages of the scriptures, revealing ancient secrets that challenge our modern imagination. You will discover how these accounts can offer a new perspective on stories you thought you knew. This video is not just a curiosity. It will change the way you see ancient texts and show how even the Bible can hide creatures worthy of Hollywood movies. Are you curious about what else might be hidden in texts that have been read for millennia? Do you want to know how these stories can reflect challenges and monsters you face in real life? Then stay with me until the end and discover how this knowledge can enrich your understanding and even inspire new ways to face your own monsters. In the book of Job, chapter 41, we find one of the most fascinating and terrifying descriptions of a creature called Leviathan. This monster is depicted as a beast of immense power and frightening appearance, a true force of nature. The passage begins with an intriguing question. Can you pull in Leviathan with a fishhook? Immediately, we are led to imagine a creature so colossal that even the act of trying to capture it seems impossible. The image of a beast that cannot be tamed or controlled already prepares us for the grandeur of what is to come. The Leviathan is described with vivid, chilling details. Its scales are its pride, so tightly knit together that not even air can pass between them. Imagine a creature whose body is an impenetrable fortress, each part of it created to withstand any attack. And it's not just its natural armor that intimidates. When it sneezes, it flashes light, and its eyes are like the rays of dawn. Torches blaze from its mouth and sparks of fire shoot out, as if hell itself were at the bottom of the waters. Who could face something like this? The description continues to highlight its destructive power. It makes the sea churn like a boiling cauldron and leaves a shining wake in the water, turning the ocean into a stage for its fury. It is a creature that defies the forces of nature and demonstrates that in its habitat, it is the absolute king. No sword, spear, or arrow can harm it. Any weapon used against it is useless. The Leviathan is a symbol of invincibility, a pure manifestation of brute and untamable strength. Beyond its physical strength, the Leviathan is a figure of fear and reverence. When it rises up, the mighty are terrified, says the scripture. Even the bravest warriors lose their will to fight when they see it. This creature not only destroys physically, but also breaks the spirit of those who dare to face it. The presence of the Leviathan is so overwhelming that no human can bear to look at it without feeling profound fear. It is a powerful reminder of how small our capabilities are in the face of the gigantic forces that exist in the world. Finally, the Leviathan serves as a spiritual and moral lesson. God uses the description of this creature to show Job, and all of us, that there are powers in this world beyond our understanding and control. It is a call to humility, a reminder that even in our greatest achievements, we are still small before the grandeur of divine creation. The story of the Leviathan is not just about an ancient monster, but about recognizing human limits and the infinite majesty of God. This biblical account invites us to reflect on our place in the universe and to respect the forces we cannot master. Imagine a being so colossal and powerful that no human tool can capture it. This is how the Bible describes the Leviathan in chapter 41 of the book of Job. The passage begins with a rhetorical question that already makes us realize the magnitude of the creature. Can you pull in Leviathan with a fishhook? From the start, we understand that we are dealing with something far beyond human capabilities. The idea of using a simple hook to trap such an imposing beast is almost comical, highlighting the disparity between human strength and the power of the Leviathan. The Bible continues to describe the Leviathan as indomitable. No rope can bind it, no hook can pierce its mighty body. Trying to imagine capturing this creature shows the futility of our efforts. Its scales are described as an impenetrable shield, so tightly bound that not even air can pass between them. This is not just a physical description, but a symbol of invulnerability. The Leviathan is presented as a being that cannot be dominated, reminding us of the limitations of our instruments and the fragility of our strength. When we think about the inability to capture the Leviathan, we are also led to reflect on human impotence in the face of the forces of nature and the unknown. This creature, which inhabits the depths of the sea, is a manifestation of chaos that cannot be contained. The weapons and tools that work against other creatures have no effect on it. Neither spears, nor arrows, nor any type of weaponry can harm it. This challenges us to consider how little control we have over the world around us. Besides its physical invulnerability, the Leviathan represents God's absolute power and sovereignty over creation. God asks Job if he can pull in the Leviathan with a fishhook or tie down its tongue with a rope, knowing very well that the answer is no. These questions illustrate a larger point. Only God has the power to control the Leviathan. This makes us reflect on our own humility and the need to acknowledge things beyond our reach. The message is clear. There are forces and creatures in creation that are untouchable by human hands. Finally, the description of the Leviathan serves as a reminder that there are mysteries in creation that we cannot unravel. The Bible uses the image of this indomitable monster to teach us about the limits of human power and the greatness of divine power. Trying to capture the Leviathan with a fishhook or a rope is like trying to grasp the infinite with finite tools. This account invites us to recognize and respect these greater forces, accepting that despite all our technology and knowledge, we are still small in the face of the vastness and mystery of divine creation. The Leviathan thus becomes a symbol of our continuous journey to understand and respect the world that God created. In the book of Job, chapter 41, the description of the Leviathan continues to fascinate and terrify, especially when it comes to its jaws and teeth. This creature is not only large and indomitable, its jaws are described as a symbol of relentless strength. Imagine a being whose jaws are so powerful that they can crush anything in their path. The image the Bible gives us is of a creature whose bite is deadly, a true natural weapon. The Leviathan's teeth are described as a terrifying swords. Visualize a mouth full of sharp teeth, ready to tear apart any prey that comes near. These teeth are not just for show, they are tools of destruction. Each tooth is a blade that cuts and tears with deadly precision. The sight of such a mouth, filled with such threatening teeth, is enough to make anyone tremble with fear. It's no wonder that even the bravest warriors cower at the thought of facing this creature. The strength of the Leviathan's jaws is such that no material, whether wood, metal, or stone, can withstand its bite. When it closes its jaws, it is as if the very force of nature is compressed there, capable of splitting even the hardest objects in two. This detail makes us understand the magnitude of its power. The Leviathan is not just a large animal, it is a devastating force, capable of easily destroying everything it encounters. Beyond the physical aspect, the jaws and teeth of the Leviathan carry profound symbolism. They represent the overwhelming power of creation and the futility of human attempts to control or subdue such a force. The Bible reminds us that, in the face of creatures like the Leviathan, we must acknowledge our own limits. Through this description, we are invited to reflect on the absolute power of God, who created such a being with such impressive and fearsome attributes. Finally, the jaws and teeth of the Leviathan challenge us to consider the mystery and majesty of the world created by God. They remind us that there is much more in the world than what we can see and understand. The description of this creature in the book of Job serves to reinforce the idea that creation is full of wonders and terrors, and that ultimately, we must respect and revere God's power. This vision inspires us to have humility and admiration in the face of the complexity and strength of the nature that surrounds us. In chapter 41 of the book of Job, the scales of the Leviathan are described with impressive detail, painting the picture of a truly indomitable creature. Its scales are so tightly joined that not even air can pass between them. Imagine a coating so perfect and impenetrable that each part fits without the slightest gap. This description already gives us a clue about the invulnerability of the Leviathan, suggesting that its body is a moving fortress. The scales of the Leviathan are a natural shield that protects this creature from any attack. Unlike other animals, whose skins can be penetrated, the scales of the Leviathan form a solid barrier. Visualize an armor so dense and impenetrable that no spear, arrow, or sword can pierce it. This makes us understand that the Leviathan is a creature created with such a perfect defense that it defies any attempt to harm it. The interlocking of the scales is not just a matter of physical protection, but also a symbol of its resilience and power. Each scale is so firmly interwoven that the overall structure becomes unbreakable. It is as if each scale works in perfect harmony with the others, creating an unshakable unity. This detail makes us realize that the Leviathan is not only powerful due to its size or strength, but also because of the perfection of its natural design. It is a reminder that some forces in nature are so well constructed that they become almost invincible. Besides their practical function, the scales of the Leviathan have a visual and emotional impact. Imagining a creature covered in a mantle of shiny and impenetrable scales, we feel a mixture of admiration and terror. This creature is not just an animal but a masterpiece of divine creation, demonstrating God's ability to create beings that exceed our understanding and capability. The scales, so close together, also symbolize the perfection of God's creation, where every detail is designed to showcase His majesty. Finally, the description of the Leviathan scales invites us to reflect on the impenetrable nature of some challenges we face in life. Just as air cannot pass between the scales of the Leviathan, some difficulties seem insurmountable to us. However, the Bible reminds us that these forces, no matter how powerful, are still part of God's creation. This invites us to trust in God's wisdom and power, recognizing that even in the face of the most frightening challenges, there is a greater purpose and a divine design at work. This understanding can bring us peace and strength in the face of adversity, reminding us that, like the Leviathan scales, we are part of something larger and magnificently orchestrated. In the book of Job, chapter 41, the description of the Leviathan reaches a peak of awe when mentioning its fiery breath. When it exhales, it emits light, illuminating the darkness around it with an intense and terrifying glow. Imagine a creature so powerful that each breath illuminates its surroundings, as if it carries the very essence of fire within it. Its eyes, compared to the first rays of dawn, reflect a penetrating and hypnotic brilliance, as if capable of looking directly into the soul of those who dare to face it. The image of a mouth from which torches and sparks of fire emerge is both fascinating and terrifying. This detail transforms the Leviathan from a simple sea creature into a true elemental force. It is not just a physical threat, but a being that commands the power of fire, one of the most destructive forces of nature. When we think of sparks and flames coming from its mouth, we visualize a scene of chaos and destruction, where the Leviathan incinerates everything in its path. This fiery breath is not just a spectacle, it symbolizes the Leviathan's destructive power and contained fury. Each spark and flame are manifestations of its immense power, ready to be unleashed at any moment. This ability to expel fire makes the Leviathan an even more fearsome creature, as it combines the elements of water and fire, showing that it dominates both the oceans and the flames. This duality reinforces the idea that the Leviathan represents the primordial forces of the universe. Besides the destructive aspect, the Leviathan's fiery breath also makes us think about light and revelation. When it exhales and emits light, we can see this as a metaphor for the divine truth that illuminates the darkness of ignorance and fear. Just as the light of the first rays of dawn dispels the darkness of night, the Leviathan, with its fiery breath, can be seen as a symbol of the revealing and purifying power of God's creation. It reminds us that even in the darkest depths and the most frightening situations, there is always a divine light present. Finally, the description of the Leviathan's fiery breath invites us to reflect on God's supreme power in creation. If a creature like the Leviathan, with its command of fire and light, is only a part of God's creation, then how great must the Creator's power be? This account calls us to revere the greatness and majesty of God, recognizing that in the face of His power, we are mere awed spectators. Contemplating the Leviathan and its fiery breath leads us to a deeper appreciation of the complexity and wonder of the universe created by God. In chapter 41 of the book of Job, the description of the Leviathan reaches a new level of intensity by detailing the strength residing in its neck. This strength is not only physical, but also symbolic, representing the essence of its power. Imagine a creature so powerful that the mere mention of the strength in its neck evokes images of immense resilience and potency. The Leviathan's neck, robust and imposing, is the foundation of its power, supporting a head full of sharp teeth and eyes, shining like the first rays of dawn. The strength in the Leviathan's neck is so impressive that it induces terror in all who see it. The Bible says that terror dances before him, just suggesting that fear is not just a reaction, but an almost tangible presence accompanying the Leviathan wherever it goes. The sight of such a strong neck, capable of supporting and moving a colossal body, is enough to make even the brave tremble. This dancing terror symbolizes the constant presence of fear and reverence that the Leviathan inspires in all around it. The Leviathan's neck, with its monumental strength, also suggests an unmatched capacity for resistance and survival. In many creatures, the neck is a vulnerable point, but in the Leviathan, it is a fortress. This detail makes us realize that the Leviathan is a creature without apparent weak points, a being created to be invincible and indomitable. Its strength is a reminder that there are elements in creation beyond our control and understanding, which must be respected for their magnitude and power. Furthermore, the powerful neck of the Leviathan is a metaphor for the unbreakable strength of God's creation. Just as the Leviathan, with its strong neck, represents an indomitable force in nature, we are also reminded of the strength and majesty of the Creator. This unbreakable neck is a symbol of the solidity and immutability of divine power. It invites us to reflect on the robustness of creation and the greatness of God, who made all things with unmatched purpose and strength. Finally, the image of the Leviathan's strong neck invites us to recognize our own limits and the need for humility. In the face of such overwhelming strength, we are reminded that there are powers in the world greater than ourselves. This description inspires us to revere the complexity and strength of divine creation, reminding us that even in our quest for understanding and control, we must always respect and admire the grandeur of God's work. The Leviathan, with its powerful neck, is a testament to the magnificence and mystery of the universe created by God. In chapter 41 of the book of Job, the heart of the Leviathan is described with a powerful metaphor, so hard as stone. This image evokes a creature whose nature is relentless and merciless. Imagine a heart so resilient and insensitive that nothing can touch or move it. This description not only highlights the physical strength of the Leviathan, but also suggests a total absence of compassion or vulnerability. The Leviathan, with a heart of stone, is a symbol of impenetrability and indifference. The Leviathan's heart being compared to stone also implies that it is immune to fear and pain. While other beings may be overwhelmed by fear or pain, the Leviathan remains unwavering. Its heart of stone means it knows no weakness or hesitation. This characteristic makes it an even more terrifying figure, as it cannot be intimidated or defeated by conventional means. It is a force of nature that follows its own course, indifferent to human efforts to control or destroy it. Moreover, the Leviathan's hard heart is a metaphor reflecting the essence of the evil and chaos it represents. In the Bible, the heart often symbolizes the source of emotions and intentions. A heart of stone suggests a creature that operates without remorse or empathy, a being whose existence is centered on destruction and brute power. This description leads us to reflect on the nature of evil that can exist in the world, a force that is cold, calculating, and impenetrable, far beyond human understanding and influence. The image of a heart of stone also invites us to think about the Leviathan's unbreakable resilience and resistance. It is not only physically imposing, but also emotionally invulnerable. This aspect of its description underscores the idea that the Leviathan is an entity that cannot be tamed or altered. It remains constant in its hardness, defying any attempt at change or control. This characteristic makes it a permanent challenge and a constant threat, always present in the depths of the sea. Finally, The description of the Leviathan's heart as hard as stone reminds us of God's sovereignty over all things. Although the Leviathan is a creature of immeasurable power and impenetrable heart, it is still a creation of God. This description serves to remind us that no matter how formidable the Leviathan is, it is still under the dominion of the Creator. It is a call to humility and reverence, recognizing that in the face of the greatness and mystery of divine creation, we must trust in God's wisdom and power. The Leviathan, with its heart of stone, is a manifestation of the magnitude of divine power and the complexity of the world God has created. In the book of Job, chapter 41, the Leviathan is described as a truly indestructible creature. No sword, spear, dart, or arrow can wound it. This description evokes an image of total invulnerability, a creature whose defenses are so perfect that any attack becomes futile. Imagine a being before which all man's weapons fail miserably. No matter how sharp the blade or how powerful the bow, the Leviathan remains untouched, mocking human attempts to harm it. The Bible tells us that the Leviathan laughs at the clatter of spears. This is not only an image of physical power, but also of contempt for human strength. By laughing at the spears, the Leviathan demonstrates its unquestionable superiority. It does not merely resist attacks, it finds them insignificant. This attitude of disdain towards human weapons emphasizes the immense distance between the Leviathan's strength and ours. It is a powerful reminder of our helplessness in the face of certain forces of nature. This indestructibility of the Leviathan also symbolizes the presence of forces in the world that are beyond our control and comprehension. In a time when military strength was the measure of power, the idea of a creature that cannot be wounded by any weapon is profoundly disturbing. It makes us reflect on the limits of human power and the existence of forces that cannot be tamed or destroyed. The Leviathan is a reminder that, no matter how advanced our technologies and skills, there are still elements in the universe that remain untouched and unalterable by our hands. In addition to being a marvel of creation, the Leviathan's indestructibility is an expression of God's majesty and power. If a creature created by God is so invulnerable, how much more powerful must the Creator himself be? This reflection invites us to a deep reverence for divine power. Through the Leviathan, God shows Job, and all of us, that there is much more in creation than we can imagine or control. This message challenges us to recognize our own smallness and the greatness of the Creator. Finally, the image of the indestructible Leviathan is a metaphor for the challenges we face in life. There are obstacles and adversities that seem invincible, forces that laugh at our efforts to overcome them. However, just as the Leviathan is part of God's creation, so are the challenges we face. They remind us of the need for humility and trust in God. Even when we face what seems indestructible, we can find strength and courage in our faith, knowing that just as God created the Leviathan, He also created us and accompanies us in our struggles. In chapter 41 of the book of Job, the Leviathan's movement in the water is described so vividly that we can almost visualize the scene before our eyes. When the Leviathan moves, it makes the water boil like a boiling pot. Imagine a being so powerful that its mere passage through the sea transforms calm waters into a seething tumult. This description transports us to a scenario where the Leviathan, with each movement, creates gigantic waves and intense agitation, as if the sea itself were boiling. The image of the water boiling around the Leviathan not only highlights its brute strength, but also its ability to transform the environment around it. The sea, usually a symbol of vastness and tranquility, becomes a bubbling cauldron in the presence of this creature. This makes us think about the profound and visceral impact the Leviathan has on its natural habitat. It is a force that not only exists in the sea, but dominates and alters the very essence of the ocean with its presence. Beyond physical strength, the Leviathan's movement in the water symbolizes the disturbance and chaos it can bring. When it moves, it leaves a trail of turbulence and disorder. This detail emphasizes the untamable nature of the Leviathan, a creature that cannot be controlled or predicted. Its ability to make the water boil is a powerful metaphor for the chaotic forces of nature that can suddenly emerge, altering the balance and creating a sense of disorder and unpredictability. By describing the Leviathan in this way, the Bible invites us to reflect on the sublime power of God's creation. The Leviathan, with its movement that makes the water boil, is a manifestation of natural forces that are both fascinating and terrifying. This creature reminds us that no matter how much we try to dominate and understand nature, there will always be elements that remain beyond our control. It is a call to humility and admiration in the face of the greatness of divine creation. Finally, the description of the Leviathan moving through the water like a boiling pot can also be seen as a symbol of purification and transformation. Boiling water can be a metaphor for the process of purification, where intense heat removes impurities and brings forth the true essence of things. The Leviathan, by stirring and boiling the waters, can be interpreted as an agent of change and renewal, reminding us that even in the most chaotic and uncontrollable forces of life, there is a greater purpose and meaning in God's grand plan. In chapter 41 of the book of Job, the Leviathan is described as the king of the proud. This designation is not merely a statement of its physical power, but also a declaration of its supreme position among all creatures that exhibit pride. Imagine a being so grand and imposing that even the proudest animals of creation recognize it as their sovereign. It is not only powerful but also majestic in its superiority, imposing respect and fear wherever it goes. Being considered the king of the proud means that the Leviathan possesses a confidence and presence that eclipse any other creature. Pride, often seen as a negative trait, is here transformed into a symbol of dominance and authority. The Leviathan, with its untamable strength and invulnerability, is the epitome of natural pride, a being that knows no submission. It represents the quintessence of self-sufficiency and power, an uncontested ruler in its aquatic domain. This position as king of the proud also highlights the uniqueness of the Leviathan compared to other creatures. While many animals may exhibit strength and courage, the Leviathan stands out for its ability to inspire fear and admiration in equal measure. Its presence is so overwhelming that no other being dares to challenge it. It not only reigns over the proud, it sets the standard by which pride and majesty are measured. This innate superiority places it on a pedestal that few, if any, other creatures can reach. Moreover, the description of the Leviathan as king of the proud serves to illustrate the magnitude of God's power in creation. If such an impressive and powerful creature is merely part of God's handiwork, how much more magnificent must the Creator be? The Leviathan, in all its glory and power, is a testament to God's ability to create beings that exceed our understanding and capability. It is a constant reminder of divine majesty and the complexity of the universe God has designed. Finally, the title of King of the Proud offers us a reflection on the nature of human pride. Compared to the Leviathan, our own displays of pride seem insignificant and fragile. Through this image, we are invited to recognize our own limits and the need for humility. The Leviathan, with its incomparable strength and majesty, reminds us that no matter how powerful or proud we may feel, there is always something greater and more powerful that deserves our reverence. It is a call to appreciate the grandeur of creation and to recognize our place within it, always with humility and admiration for divine power. These biblical descriptions are rich in poetic and symbolic imagery, portraying Behemoth and Leviathan as magnificent and formidable creatures that represent the majesty and power of God's creation. In various theological interpretations, these creatures symbolize forces of chaos or powerful aspects of nature, demonstrating God's sovereignty over all things. We pray for each of you, asking God to bless your lives with peace, health, and prosperity. If you are not yet subscribed, we invite you to join our community to learn more about the wonders of the Bible and to feel the love of God. Subscribe now and be included in our prayers, allowing God to work in amazing ways in your life. May God bless you all abundantly.